sack. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again to the 35.
Hungry dogs run faster.
What's good, everyone, and welcome back to Having Juice with OJ. And I'm here again with my co-host Juan. What's good, bro?
What's going on? Let's talk some sports, man.
Yeah, let's do it. How was your weekend, bro?
Oof, stressful. I was at work for both the Phillies games, which is, it's like a bittersweet experience. It's fun being around a bunch of people, but in the same breath, I'm a fan, so I'm watching, and on Saturday, everything's going well until it's not. And Sunday, while it was a great game, also just stressful, but I can't really complain, man. How about you?
Chilling, man. I was up in Staten Island coaching some 13U baseball this weekend, so I didn't get to just have the game on my phone a lot of the time, so you're going to have to kind of walk me through these games a little bit.
All right.
I saw some of I watched the highlights, obviously, but that just doesn't give you the full effect of all the things in between. So we're going to start with game one here.
Yeah.
6-2 loss. I was looking at my phone the entire time. What happened?
Well, Schwarber hits a leadoff tank, and vibes are immaculate. Like you can't tell us anything. We are about to blow them out, right? And then I don't think you get another hit for another couple innings. The Mets they're not looking great against Wheeler. Wheeler's kind of dominating them. The strike zone all day was iffy, but that's not really an excuse. Once you took Wheeler out, things just imploded. But in the same breath, you can't expect to win a game when your first hit is the only run you're going to get for most of the game. They get another run in the ninth, I think. But the Mets just kind of, I think it was the eighth inning, and they went 5 for 5 to start the inning. And some of them are hard contact. A lot of them are like late inside-out swings and bloopers. And I don't want to discredit that, but none of it seemed like it was like hard hit balls that they were crushing us on. So it was rough, but at the end of the day, we talked about this, man. That's what the Mets are doing. The Mets are hot. They're making comebacks left and right, and that's exactly what they did. And they came into a hostile environment and handled some business. And then game two was almost similarly started, except no leadoff home run. Sanchez looked good. He gives up the home run to Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos is absolutely killing us right now. Just a stud. Just a stud of a player. I'm pretty sure he's a rookie. He comes up, hits a 2-run home run off of Sanchez. Alonso hits another home run. We're down 3-0. And vibes are low. Vibes are low. You can tell on the bank it's not going great. And one thing that the Mets are doing is, and they keep bringing it up on the broadcast, and I don't like to like harp on things that they say, but they're right. The Mets are just, in 2 strike counts, they're getting on base. And that's so important in baseball. It's so important in baseball to kind of battle back when you're falling behind and be able to get on and kind of spark rallies from that. And the Mets are doing that, man. They're just getting on with 2 strike counts, 0-2 counts specifically. Vientos popped a double down the line on an 0-2 count. They're just playing well, but that second game, that was one of those, like, we talked about rankings last week, right?
Yeah.
That game would go up there on those rankings. I don't care if it's an NLDS game. The electricity and just how that game went down throughout the whole thing, like, that was just a classic game, man.
Yeah. I mean, Wheeler going 7 innings and just absolutely dominating is what you love to see.
Yeah.
And then something that's always been an issue in Philly is that relieving. And it feels like the coaches, the owners, the GMs, all that, they didn't do anything to pick up anyone at the deadline when it came to relieving. How do you feel about your relief pitchers right now? I mean, they're pretty damn shaky.
Well, I didn't think that the
Strom.
bullpen was Strom. So, but when we're talking about come trade deadline, Strom was elite the whole first 2/3 of the season. Strom was elite. He's kind of come off a little bit. Him and Hoffman both were shut down, and now we're in a place where we're kind of worried when they come in, and I don't love to see that, but hindsight's 20/20, and right now the bullpen doesn't look great. But throughout the season, I wasn't too concerned about the bullpen. I always thought you could have used a legitimate closer because I didn't think we had a legitimate closer. But at the bullpen by committee role wasn't going bad for us. It's rough when when Wheeler throws the gem, like you said, and then your bullpen, it's supposed to be your best guys come in and just kind of implode. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying. None of it was super hard hit balls, but at the same time, none of that doesn't matter, right? The end score is what matters. Mm-hmm. And so bullpen, sure, we could have addressed it, but in the same breath, I didn't think it was like a glaring need for this team. I always thought we could have used another bat. Austin Hayes isn't doing anything at all. And the guys that you traded from the bullpen also went down to the Orioles and stunk it up anyway. So it's not like we could say like, oh, we could have used a Sir Anthony on this team. We could have used a Gregory Soto on this team. Like neither of those guys would have contributed. It's rough to see, but then I mean, even you see, it's hard to say that the bullpen I'm confident in right now because even Jose Ruiz comes in and I'm at work and I'm like, why is this the guy we're bringing in right now? Why is Jose Ruiz? And then Pete Alonso, he hangs a curveball to Pete Alonso. Also, AJ Przinsky's horrible. Mm-hmm. I can't stand listening to him talk on TV.
Oh, he's terrible.
He's brutal. I don't want to say he's a Mets fan, but he definitely has some sort of bias on that side. Like anything that happens, he credits the Mets for, and it's kind of infuriating. But that's neither here or there. That's just a little side tangent. Bullpen wise, they need to be better.
Yeah.
They need to be better. But the bats, you can't score 2 runs in a playoff game.
Yeah,
it's not going to work.
For sure. I totally agree. Something that also happened was Alec Boehm getting benched in the second game after going 0 for. And Mundo Sosa, they bring in. They say that he brings the electricity, which he does. Mm-hmm. I will give him that. What do you think about the benching of Alec Boehm? I mean, he was pretty disastrous toward the end of the year.
I think it's a year too late. You should have benched Boehm last year when he was struggling last year and you kept him in. Sosa, I don't mind playing Sosa, but in the same breath, he makes a throwing error that I thought Harper could have made a little bit more effort on, but I'm also, the throw should have hit him in his chest. Mm-hmm. One thing I didn't like about it was you don't start him and then you bring him cold off of the bench to come in and face a reliever in a big situation. I forget the exact situation, but I know that there was runners on, there was 2 outs. Boehm comes in versus a guy that's just not throwing strikes, just like literally missing the zone constantly. You need to be patient. You haven't seen a pitch all day. You're coming in cold, and you want to swing first pitch on a fastball up and in on your hands. Like, doesn't help his case when he does stuff like that. But I think game 2 is a bit early to bench him.
Yeah, no.
I would have stuck with Boehm. Boehm showed you this year that he's been good. He's been tailing off a bit since the All-Star break for sure. But I didn't think it was enough to bench him. If he goes 0 for again, then you have another conversation on a day 3, But I thought it was a bit early.
Yeah, I definitely thought that they were like rushing to something that they did not have to do. It's kind of similar to what the Yankees just did with Oswaldo Cabrera, where they benched him for John Birdie. Like, God knows why we did that. Like, that just made absolutely no sense to me. Same type of situation, though. You just have this guy, been there, done that, been doing some things for your team, helping out the ball club. And you just bench him because, like, you think that you're running out of time or something like that. When, like, I don't think benching Alec Boehm is what was going to win you that game.
No.
Game 2, you guys win on a Nick Casty, just absolute show of a game. How did you feel like the electricity that I was watching on my way home from Staten Island when Bryce Harper hit the ball down the line? And I was streaming it and it lagged right when he hit it and it goes, and Bryce Harper down the, I'm like, oh my God, pause. I'm like, oh my God, is it foul? Then it's foul all of a sudden. It was like, oh, that was crazy. How did you feel when Nick Casty ended that? Because what was it, an 0-2 count too?
Yeah, 0-2 count. 0-2 count, he steps out the box, he kind of composes himself. And it looked like a slider that just kind of hung up a little bit, and he banged it out to the left. I love it. I absolutely love it. He, there's a little clip of him during an at-bat when he lays off a pitch in the dirt and the fans start cheering.
Because he never lays off any pitch.
And he mouths like, these fucking people. And what I'll say about Casty is, sure, he's gonna make comments like that, but it's not because he feels any sort of way towards the fans. I think he genuinely embraces it. But it's also like, man, like, come on. I contributed this year. I think Casty had a great year. And then he goes 3 for 5 yesterday,
Yeah.
Homer, the walk-off. I think he hit a double. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure maybe not a double, but he hit the ball to get Bryce to third, and I think he ended up staying at first. right before the Stott triple. So I love Casty. I've always been a big Casty fan. I loved when they signed him. He had some rough patches, and I think that he understands that the rough patches kind of still sit in some Phillies fans' brains. But overall, you got to love him, especially after a performance like that.
He was one of the most consistent players that you guys had this entire year, man.
He really was. He really was.
Yeah, he was there the entire time. And Game 3 is happening tonight. By the time this comes out, obviously, we always say that. It will not be tonight. We got Aaron Nola versus Manaea. How do we feel about this pitching matchup? Do we think Aaron Nola is going to do good today?
Yeah, I think so. I think Nola's proved that he's really good in the playoffs. Last time they faced Manaea, they lit him up when he was on the Padres. I think this lineup kind of bodes well to face lefties. Harper hits lefties pretty well. But you got Turner, you got JT, you got Casty, you got Bohm, who can all hit lefties pretty well. So I think the Phillies have an edge on the pitching matchup. We'll see. The Mets are just hot, man. We keep saying it. When we're going to keep saying it, the Mets are hot right now, and they're vibing. They're a team of hope right now. And it's funny to say because people keep telling me, "Oh, the Mets are playing for nothing. The Mets are playing for nothing." They have the highest payroll in baseball. There's no way you're playing for nothing with the highest payroll in baseball. So like, I don't like hearing that they're playing for nothing. Their expectations were where they are now. They should have been a playoff team, and they kind of squeezed into that role. And so I don't like hearing that, like, oh, they're the wild card team. Like, no, this is where they're supposed to be. And they're playing like it now. And it's a scary thing for a Phillies fan to say, but you're going to go into New York. I'm sure their fans are going to be a part of it. It's going to all be on Nola to silence those bats, and I think he can do it. And then it's going to be on somebody like Bryce or Cassie to be a villain and go in there and take over New York and hit an absolute bomb and pimp it and, hit the swipe across the jersey and just embrace being the villain in New York, because I think that's what they're going to live for. They're going to have to do that. I think they're going to have to come out and hit. Obviously, it's baseball, but you're going to have to hit home runs. The playoffs have been all about home runs the last couple of years, so I think the Phillies have the advantage, but the Mets, man, they're just a pesky team.
It's crazy just watching the Mets after this entire year being like they are trash. Like they were trash the entire fucking year.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they come out and they just start fight. For some reason, their bats come alive. Pete Alonso was trash this year, boys. Like trash. And all of a sudden, like this team just starts putting it together. Their pitching starts putting it together. And then look at them now. They had that crazy series against the Braves, which just threw them into the playoffs. It feels like a run at the end of the year like the Diamondbacks last year.
Yeah.
It feels like magical. And that you have those moments with these wild card teams, which has happened the last like 3-ish, 4-ish years now.
Yeah, the Phillies.
Yeah, exactly. The Phillies had it. And you never know what you're going to get. And it's tough because everyone was like, not to put it like this, but Citizens Bank Park is like the hardest place to play in, like all that. Like all Phillies fans said that. You almost went down 0-2 in Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah, and you lost 2 to the Diamondbacks in Citizens Bank Park last year. Like that home field advantage theory is getting debunked a little bit, but it's still the most electric.
Yeah, it is an electric
playoff
scene
baseball right now. But that's not to say I think that depending on how expensive tickets are, I think that the Mets stadium could. I think they're feeling the Mets right now. I think that Mets fans are very much fair weather fans, where when they're not good, the stadium is absolutely empty. When they are good, it's absolutely full. So I think right now it's going to be a hostile environment for the Phillies to go into. But they've got 2 players that I know of off the top of my head that absolutely thrive on that, and Harper and Casty. So
1000%.
I'm hoping that they can just kind of go in and handle business. And I don't even want to come back to Philly. Let's just take care of business in New York and focus on that. Dodgers-Padres series is insane too. And I think either one of those teams is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I personally have Padres going pretty far, but the Dodgers are scaring the hell out of me right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got such a good lineup, like on offense and defense. It just works. It just works. So those 2 teams, whichever comes out, scary team to face. 1000% agree. We're gonna move on from baseball. We're gonna go a little bit into football here with the firing of Robert Saleh.
Yeah,
that just happened like 30 minutes before we are recording this episode.
Yeah.
What pressure do you think that puts on Nick Sirianni?
it sets a precedent that it's not too early to fire your head coach. When you've got high expectations, it doesn't really matter circumstances. And the Eagles are in that same exact situation right now where Sirianni's on the hot seat. It doesn't. They might not come out and say it. I've seen no reports that have said he's on the hot seat. But it's hard to sit here and not realize what's going on over the last like 13, 15 games and not have a feeling that the head coach is at fault. So firing Saleh kind of sets a precedent of like, okay, we can do this. It's not too early. We're not going to be the first ones to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think we kind of talked about. Nobody really wants to be the first to fire their head coach. But
Of course, it would be the Jets too.
yeah,
Of course.
But it'll all depend on this weekend. Games like this weekend always scare me. Eagles playing the Browns. It always feels like a cakewalk, and then, it's not like the Browns aren't talented. Amari Cooper's still on the outside. Jerry Jeudy can still light you up if he wants to. He's not been great in his career, but I think Jerry Jeudy's still got all the talent in the world.
For sure.
So games like this scare me, especially when our defense has been playing how they're playing. And the Browns' defense isn't bad. They got Myles Garrett, who might be able to get after the quarterback. I haven't really seen much on any of our injuries. I think AJ is going to be back, but I don't know about Smitty or Lane.
Yeah.
But it regardless of win or loss, the way that you play that game will determine to me how hot of a seat Sirianni's on. You come out and you squeak out a win and the city kind of gets on back behind you, then like this seat's still hot, but I guess you kind of ease out. You lose a close game and same thing. I don't think it gets too bad. But if you come out and you get ran over by the Browns, like I don't even know how you get to Monday.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, we talked about it last week and you were pretty confident. Nick Sirianni, like if he was gonna get gone, I mean, it was gonna happen before the season.
Yeah.
And then maybe after the season is when they would do it. Do you feel a little bit differently after last week?
Yeah, I do. I just don't think that you can waste a year of this core. This team is talented. They've got all the talent in the world. They've got a top 3, if not the best wide receiver duo in baseball, in football. You got a great tight end. You got one of the best running backs. You got a great O-line. Jalen is still a top 10, top 15 quarterback, in my opinion. Like, you have the pieces to make some sort of run, and I feel like if you just kind of ride the wave out with Sirianni on the same path we're going down right now, you're wasting that. So if you can, we talked about it, if you can get like a spark in here, like something to get this locker room kind of going, then you should. And if firing Sirianni is that thing, then I'm all for it. But in the same breath, I don't want to panic.
Yeah,
and
make a wrong move.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, none of us really know what the locker room is really like. For all we know, they absolutely love Sirianni, and firing him is just going to send.
Yeah, but that would also be so like you would see that.
Yeah,
like, I feel like that would be like so like it doesn't feel like he hasn't won over the players, and he did a while ago.
Yeah,
and then it stopped last year once you guys hit that just like blockade. Or you just couldn't win games anymore after like 10 games. It just feels like there's nothing there anymore. It feels like nobody's talking highly of them. It just like, if there is that in that locker room, just that camaraderie and that like bromance type of thing that's going on in there, it's not shown to the public. And shouldn't you want to show that to your fans that like, hey, we got our coaches back, or like, hey, we've got Jalen's back? I feel like I haven't heard any of this.
No, it's a good point.
Maybe because Kelsey's not there either. Because Kelsey was that leader, so
that's what I was just going to get to is like the guys that were doing that I feel like aren't really here anymore. So like the main two, like Kelsey, and I remember Fletcher Cox coming out and saying something like that. They're not here anymore. Different regime. So maybe these players aren't fully bought in, and you can kind of tell that some of them aren't. We talked about Jalen's comments last week where he was like, we have our moments. Like that's not an endorsing statement on your head coach.
Yeah.
I think Jalen and Sirianni do have a strenuous relationship. And I don't know if Kellen Moore is going to be any better. I'm not quite sure what Jalen wants. But I think that you come out this weekend and you blow the Browns out and everything kind of flips and everything kind of, okay, we're getting back on track here. But if you come out and you have another ugly loss or a game where you're winning and then you blow a lead, like, yeah, those calls for his job are going to be very, very loud. And I don't see a situation where you can be an owner in a city like Philadelphia and just be willing to accept mediocrity.
Yeah, it's pretty ugly with the Eagles right now. One thing I kind of want to go on right now is my team. The 5-0 Bandits right now. Just had a very, very good win here. We moved up in the power rankings to where exactly you wanted us to be, the number 2 spot. The Vikings are hot.
Yeah.
They've got the number 1 defense in fantasy right now. They're hot. Put up 22 for me on the waiver wire. Go pick them up if you haven't, guys, because people still don't have them in their starting lineups. They're still on the waiver wire for some reason. Brian Flores is doing an amazing job over there. What do you think about the Vikings right now being 5-0? Are they pretenders or are they contenders here?
I think they're contenders. We talked about it. They've beaten good teams. And the Jets, I mean, say what you want about the Jets. That game weren't they in London? That's a whole different time zone, whole new routine.
Different locker room, everything's superstitions are gone.
So that's never going to be an easy game traveling across the pond to play another football game. But I like the Vikings. We keep talking about it, man. They look good. They're going to get Hawk back. We'll see what's going on with Aaron Jones. Ty Chandler, I never know what to think about him, man. Sometimes he's got crazy bursts. And then, I sent that text in the one, Sam Darnold throws him a pitch, and it just hits off his shoulder pad.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is with him, he's exactly what Alexander Madison was to Dalvin Cook. Where when Dalvin Cook was there, Alexander Madison looked like a dog because nobody was game planning for him, or he just wasn't that dude. So he would just have these crazy good runs, and everyone would be like, "Oh my God, he's great. He could be RB1." Then we gave him RB1, and he was trash.
Horrible,
trash. Same type of thing. It feels like with Ty Chandler. I mean, last year we saw it too. There was nobody who could run the ball, so he was there too. He couldn't run the ball either.
Yeah.
So Ty Chandler RB2 for sure. I have no idea what we would do if he's our RB1.
Well, they said Aaron Jones is going to get some testing done, so we'll see on that one.
And then the other 5-0 team are the Chiefs. Best team in football, hand down.
Yeah.
How about that Monday night game?
That was a good one, man. Kelsey kind of getting back into it. Xavier
I knew it was going to be his coming out party, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew it. With Rashee Rice out, Isaiah Pacheco out.
Yeah.
Who do you think's going to get the ball? I mean, and Juju.
Yeah, Juju looked good. So, like you said, it was kind of inevitable that Kelsey was going to get it back rolling. Yeah. Rashee Rice probably out for the year. Pacheco out another couple of weeks. It's the same old thing that we've seen. Once Tyreek left and they didn't have another receiver, we're just going to let Kelsey get open, and we're going to find him. At one point I saw it was 9 for 10 on receptions, a couple close to 100 yards, 70-something yards. Good day from Travis Kelsey. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. We said it last week. We're going to say it again. That anytime you got Patty Mahomes, anytime you got Andy Reid, you're going to compete. You're probably going to be a Super Bowl contender. So we'll see how that goes. My voice right now. Jeez.
Yeah, it's gone, bro.
I know.
What's up with it?
Screaming too hard on Sunday. But yeah, Vikings look really good, man. Chiefs look really good. One game I really liked watching this weekend was that Bills and Texans game.
Yeah.
That was a good game to watch. Some really questionable calls from McDermott when they're tied and they're backed up in their own end zone. He's just throwing deep balls the whole time. But that was a fun game
Josh
to watch.
Allen fantasy points, man, absolutely were abysmal this week again,
brutal. But it was a good weekend for football. I always love a stress-free Eagles weekend, except for the Phillies decided to compound on that stress.
Yeah, of course. You guys have a bye week, and then the Phillies want to lose the first game at home to the Mets. I mean, that's exactly what you expect to happen.
Just when I thought I could sit on my couch and enjoy a Sunday at 4:25, here come the Phillies to just ruin my day. But nothing better than the ups and downs of sports, man. That's why they say you got to be romantic about baseball. It's just when a good game is good, man. I struggle with finding another sport that I like to watch better than playoff baseball.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode of Having Juice with OJ. Thank you so much. Like, comment, subscribe below, and let us know how you feel about our thoughts this week. Thank you so much. Peace.
In trouble. He's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away.